All right. There we go. I didn't make.
Let's get weird, buddy. Let's get weird.
Guys, where are we?
Well, if there's a bright center to the universe, you're on the planet that it's farthest from.
Welcome to the Outer Rim. Enjoy your stay.
Fuck you, Mr. Milchick!
It's just the perfect way to jump right into it.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Welcome back, everybody, to the channel. We're a week late. We're more than a week late. We're a week and a day late from talking about Severance here on the channel with my friend Darren here, who has been with me for the course of this series and a bunch of other things that we've talked about together. So yeah, we're taking care of both video episodes in one video today. I hope nobody minds that too much. It was that or don't do it at all. It's been a hell of a week, and this is a minor miracle, and I've gone through many ups and downs emotionally trying to go. I've got to find a way to keep talking about this show, and somehow we've managed. And we still got what I love about talking about this show every time I go, there's still like 4 more weeks left of this instead of like binge watching it and talking about it all at once and everything. And it also is it's one of the best shows I've ever seen. And we're here to talk about episode 4 and 5, Woe's Hollow and Trojan's Horse.
And I think oddly, maybe kind of appropriate in-show activities reflecting out life activities. So yeah, a lot of shifts of trust and who can you be with and what do you know and what is reality. Yeah, I think it's kind of a perfect time to jump in. And these 2 episodes, as we were talking about before we jumped on, I think are really a good kind of like pairing to discuss, because it's really like the before and after. Yeah, in many ways, when we're looking through Mark's journey and specifically, and even everybody else's kind of in a long way, is the almost like a season finale and the opener, and kind of like its big setup and its where it deposits the crew afterwards.
And just for everybody because I'm so terrible at self-promotion, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're liking what we're doing here on the channel. Like, or go over to Darren's channel, go and hit like and subscribe on his channel, where we'll be going to be talking about Daredevil and other stuff coming up soon. So let's just jump into it.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't ever tell your bosses that you want to go look outside. Because that's what kind of the whole gimmick is of this, is like, oh, you want to see what the outside's like? Because I mean, right from jump, you're like, when you find out that this is for episode 4 anyway, this is a workplace retreat thing. Normal workplace retreats have roofs over your head, and maybe you're outside for some of it. Maybe you go skiing or something. No, not in weirdo cults. No.
Just deposit you in the snow outside.
No, we want to make sure that you never want to go do something like this again. It falls into the whole theme of what workplace does to make you, to satiate you, or actually make you wish you hadn't asked for something. Fantastic. My logistics, there was like, okay, how'd they get them all out there without them knowing? I know that Mark knew he was on a work retreat. In episode 5, they reveal that he knew. But like when we have the opening of Irving just standing in the middle of an ice field, how'd they get it? Okay, I think this might just be weird for weird's sake, and we're really not supposed to ask. There's a couple of things in here that are weird for weird's sake that I'm just like, I'm gonna go with, because the show just wants to go out there, and I'm fine with it. There are parts of my brain that are like, wait, no, but we're just not going to go there. It's just really weird. They do everything weird at Lumen, including have a guy make a video that they can play on the top of this little mountain or whatever it is. But he's over there in a white hat and parka not too far away. Like Jeff Probst on Survivor, he's right over there. I was a little like, why did they do that? Why, like, he's there, but again, weirdness for weirdness sake. It's
Lumen is very heavy on production at the cheapest scale possible. So they'll do a video, but it'll be on VHS on a tube TV.
and I mean, I'm jumping because I just want to talk. If we're going to talk about weirdness for weirdness sake, the doppelgangers. What is that? What? Because they were moving like that's shit from like a horror movie, where the character sees stuff but nobody else can. But they all see these doppelgangers, and no, because it's the innies, nobody's thinking anything about this. But as viewers,
yeah,
we're like,
well,
what is?
But it's interesting because they're, it's like the question is like, what are the themes they're trying to play with? Because here we also get the story of our secret fourth appendix, which is apparently Kier's, twin brother, who,
Gita. He's
and
as happy as a little girl.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if what we're trying to do here, the same thing was I had written them out as like ghosts. We all have our own little ghosts that are following us around. Is this kind of their way of creating a relationship with the Audi, that you have this twin that is always with you but then comes out? And I'm curious if ultimately that was kind of the idea that they were doing with this. I also noticed it, and I'm not sure if I may be wrong here, but Irving is the only one that didn't have a solo buddy. He was there with the group when we got the group shot, but there was never an Irving, like pointing creepily down the, down the path or something, which I think was interesting considering this is in many ways kind of Irving's journey in the midst through all of this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It except for on the top of the waterfall, it was just the other three.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he was at the top of the waterfall to make it, to be honest, but I do want to bring up Rena's comment that I didn't catch, that Ortbo is an anagram for robot.
Nice.
Very, very nicely done there. I don't know. I guess when you're looking for everything, sometimes things just go right by you.
Well, and I know we're still jumping around here, but that does kind of hit an interesting point when you talk about how they got there. That is the fun thing. We don't see how they got there. And, when we get to the end in Irving, we don't see what happens when he's switched. So here, I'm going to actually jump on Rena's point here. If they're playing with anagrams, is it not just we're switching from innie to outie, but there is a robot mode where they can have you like you show up in your car and then you go out and then you're just a little control, and that's how they get you out. Because otherwise they're going to ask Irving, go out there in the snow. No, it'll be fine. This is how we do these things. Or when he pops back, and they'd have to do with all of them. Well, obviously all except one of them.
Yeah.
But that's what that's a great grab there, Rena, because I am curious if there is some third bit here, and maybe we'll touch more on that when we get to episode 5.
We talked about it. How many different ways can you be severed? And yeah, if you just kind of drop out, it made me think also all of a sudden about, and it's just dumb, but the Weapon X program for like Wolverine, and how they would empty him out. You'd just be this empty vessel to be filled with somebody else's stuff, just switched off until they flip you back on. That's probably what's going on.
Yeah, ultimately that is what the severed are. They are creating an empty version of you that then we can do activities or things or whatever. And you're right. How many depths of there might there be?
I like that we again don't deal right away with the fallout from a previous episode too. I love that they just go, nope, that's not important right now. What's important is this. And this is like Irving's. There's so in an episode that has a bunch of things happen. It's super quiet. I love the camera work, the cinematography on this show. All the people that they had to scout this place out. They weren't allowed to touch the forest that this, you know, that this was filmed on.
Yeah, they've been like deckings between everything.
Yep.
It's
The
great.
music reminded me a lot of The Game. I don't know if you remember Fincher's The
Mhm.
Game. Very
Mhm.
minimalist piano and creepiness. The woods, just have that kind of flavor
Well,
for this.
it's had the starkness and contrast of like an indie film or European, like,
Yeah,
French
artsy
cinema kind of, Art Deco film.
cinema verite
Cinema
or whatever.
verite. It's very fancy, very stark. We are showing you it is just the life and the death. That's all that there is.
Um, let's see. Can their trip? Okay, yeah, the grotto. Okay, so yeah, Dieter Egan. We have a new. Now you were saying we were talking about this. Is the twin actually a twin? Is this kind of like the dual like side of Kier? That is
Yeah.
Dieter even a real person? Does it matter? In the course of the story, I just think it's hilarious. Like again, that we're reading this stuff that's very biblical and flowery, wording, very biblical sounding. Uh, when it's really, and I mean, we're just going to talk about it. I mean, it's a story about a guy who jerks off in the woods and then gets taken by the woods because okay. So that's really flowery language for a horror movie plot.
I mean, they said it so pretty because, of course, look, I'll be honest, they start talking about this fucking, and there was Keir Deegan, and they were walking off, and don't worry about the ether halls and so on. And, in my head, I'm like, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking at the visuals, I'm tracking things. Then all of a sudden, you hear like, spilled his ancestry on the floor. I'm like, wait a minute, did they just do some flowery like spilling his seeds type kind of?
Yeah, and I had to rewind to listen to the whole thing over again about how he unbuckled himself and this just.
Yeah.
And this is like the ghost story, right? The later on with the sitting around the campfire, the ghost story told of like this is what happened, and I blame what we
Now
have to
staring at
remember
him with
here
his
because
eye
we're gonna just say
exploded
it
out of his head.
because I'm just gonna blow it here because Irving and I were right. This is not Heliar.
Yeah.
This is Audi Heli. I mean, I'm not the only one out in the audience that was like, just happy to be right about this, that it was her the whole time. Drummond has Frolic tattooed on his hand. Yes. This is Woe's Hollow too, which comes up with one of the tempers being Woe. We get that in here. And Rena, oh, wow, Rena's all over this guy. I don't even want to know if I said it jerk off much. I don't know if that's just who's that? Is that just a comment? Like to
Just throwing that out to the audience. No,
yeah.
I mean, well, because you're right, there is and it's something I think the show does in its construct. We see more of that in the next episode. How it equates and how it combines religion and corporation.
Yeah.
And how those two kind of perfectly go together, that all of it is for the corporation, for the boss, for the religion, for the god. It's all that kind of very strict command structure. And so the fact that, like anything, Dieter is sinning out in the woods. Let's go frolic in the woods and we can be animals and jerk off and do our things. And then, of course, that is sinful, so thus he must die. Or if we're looking at it as another part of Kier, as, this was my sinful and wired side that I expressed once, and then I murdered him in the forest so that I could return to my father as a blessed and pure, person. Again, which way are they trying to play with this? And I think it's probably all the ways, both as the severed and the other sides of ourselves and the multidimensionals, all of that. So yeah, I mean, it's just, if you sin, you die, which is kind of what your basic horror trope anyway, right? I'm sorry, did you have sex? Well, you're the first couple that has to die.
Yep. The whole movie, all those movies were just metaphors for what is it? They call it immoral behavior. What do they call it? Immorality or whatever when you're not married or whatever the fuck. Mythology as well as religion mixed together, Rena says. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're creating what I feel like is really creepy, and because I already find it all creepy, is just almost as if they're creating like what would be something to even replace in their minds, like modern Christianity or modern religion, and completely the way that they talk about this stuff. Like it's this whole new thing that's going to change the world. The thing with the seal, though, has got me. I don't understand that part at all. I really don't. I'm sure there's symbolism here. But I like that this is where we really start to see Irving fall, start to what they would consider falling apart. I say he's becoming more sane. He's the one that's, like I said, he knew as soon as she said Night Gardener. The rest of this episode is him watching her and listening, and he's, I like how he sits and he listens to the stories because he was so into it before. He worshiped this. He doesn't. This isn't. I think Milchick thinks this is gonna invigorate them to care about Kier, especially somebody like him. But since we saw him smash the hard devil, the deviled egg in the book, he's just there trying to figure out his own answers to the hallway and what's Helly, what's Outie Helly doing here. And John Turturro is so damn good in this. His facial, again, we talk about this on the channel all the time. We always talk about people acting with their faces. There's a lot of facial acting in this, especially also from Tremel Tillman, who plays Milchick. Fantastic way he can just say something without saying anything. So many people in this show, even Miss Huang, can say a lot with almost nothing in this show. This show gives you so much.
Well, and Natalie is like half of her character can only be expressed in small little motions because she is so much into that. Yeah.
You're looking for kind of pupil adjustments. You're looking for like a cop who's trying to see if somebody's on drugs or something, like, hey, look over here. Look over here. Did we get anything from that person? And you don't know. Everybody's so good that even though you're like, I think I saw it, you don't know if you really saw it because everybody's that good at hiding it. They tried to talk about the Helly stuff being like that she did such a good job that she wasn't tipping her hand. Her acting wasn't what tipped her hand, though. It was just them giving us too much to already look at to know that it wasn't her. But also him asking, never giving up on what did you really see? What did in the way that you can tell the difference between, and we'll talk about this later with Mark, is with Helly, is the differences between things. He's not just trying to get her to admit something, but he already knows so much because of how she answers. When she's cruel to him, talking about Bert, you're just lonely. You don't get to, it's like something you say to somebody that's supposed to be like, oh, we understand, but it was cruel. Helly R would never have done it. She was for them, not for anybody else.
Yeah.
And Mark's too, lost in what he's doing. And it all comes out weird because these people don't know how to have, I relate to it because I have a lot of these kind of conversations where I don't know socially how to act all the time because I'm new to certain things or I'm not as experienced at handling certain kinds of emotions or feelings. And so seeing Irving try to get everyone else to understand when they're all in something else and how he looks like he's nuts. And
it's interesting because that is Helly's tail. That ends up being Helly's tail. It's the one thing that I noticed, and you really don't see it clearly until the kind of seduction scene between her and Mark. Is Helena is too sophisticated. And I went back and watched, and we'll say when Helly herself comes back, there is a difference in their physicality. I mean, for one thing, it's like Helena's hair never moves. It's like a block. It never shifts. She's also coy. She plays secondary. And once we get to the scene, it's like she totally seduces him. And he did not have a chance. She is way too sophisticated. And to me, that was the definitive tell. I'm like, oh, she knows way too much. She's working him. Where Helly is so much more raw in her stuff. She is not, I mean, when we see her in the next episode, when she shows up, she's like stalking hallways. You know, she's moving, her hair's going all over. She's like this animal, like coming through, like, what the fuck is going on? Like, at the minute that she sees Miss Huang and goes, who the fuck are you? It's like, she's back. So It was really interesting, especially rewatching this and seeing how she is this kind of very careful. And that's the great thing about Irving, who sees it. You're too sophisticated. You're too smart. And how could you be in here? And guesses that she's a fucking Egan. I mean, it's just blows everything up with no one else able to suspect it, because you're right. He was the true believer. But now he can see through it all.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just, and somebody, and you get somebody like Totoro to do it. And I'm just sitting here just like, this is like the best shit. Like, this is shit from a movie of his. Like, this is classic Coen Brothers type of stuff of like when the reveal comes and the actor gets to do the thing in one of those movies, and you're just like, ooh. And so like him just turning to her and just being like, the night gardener, what was he like? Just all the questions, and just, she never wavers. She never gives in, but she tells the truth to Mark, but it's still a lie.
Yeah.
It's
and
just
she does
not her
almost
truth.
give it up.
Yeah.
Almost give it up. Because I think she's jealous of Helly.
Yes. And it's like, why is she doing this? Again, why is she doing this? Why did she sleep with Mark? All this stuff that just okay, here's the thing that keeps me tethered from completely going off into any kind of speculation is Mark's relationship with his sister.
Yeah.
And I say this because I keep wanting to know, why is Mark such a big deal? Why is it so important that he do Cold Harbor? Why is she sleeping with him now? What is getting close to him, manipulating him, making sure all of this happens? Who is he? We don't know who, we don't know who their mother is. We don't know who their father is. We haven't talked about their family lineage at all.
And he was a history teacher, right?
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah. And
Miss Casey's alive. They were in an accident and she's down in Lumen. And she wants to, and something, because they talk about it in episode 5, whatever he's doing is one of the most important things ever. And it just makes me go again, speculation, but it's like, who is Mark's mom? Or who is Mark related to? My speculation is going is Mark related to the person that was Kier's partner originally, the woman that he met in his work? Is there some sort of line where if they think that if they mate like an Egan with Mark or whoever Mark is, then maybe this is also something part of it? Because I'm trying to answer the whole why would they have sex thing, because it's not planned. They didn't have condoms out there. This is unprotected sex.
Hey, for a while I was wondering if the whole Ortbo was just so Helly could sleep with Mark.
And if she's so meticulous and smart and everything, why? And she thinks they're animals, right? Why would she have sex with him? Because later, again, further down the line, when he's confronted by Milchick about it, Milchick says it almost in a way that's like he's disgusted that this person would touch you.
Right. No, I mean, again, there's definitely those heavy religious, God, higher people, lower people, undertones going on here. But yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to what we're suspecting it is. I honestly wasn't really thinking that they were needing to breed or anything. To me, that was really more of Helena seeing, here's somewhere where I can be anybody. I can step out of myself and I can have this relationship and this this wild thing. I mean, again, it's like rich people going off into to sex clubs in the Far East or in the middle of Europe or doing things. They're just going off. They're heading to Westworld to have a little debaucherous time, and then they come home where they have to be themselves again. And this is the one place where they can kind of let go. She's calling them animals after she's realizing that they're trying to kill her. You know, I mean, it was bad enough being mad at herself, but she could do this. But now she's like, yeah, they're all fucking animals. I'm not going back. They're crazy again. And I think that's also a reaction to her to go, no, I'm better than them. I'm not one of them. I can't get sucked down into it when that's exactly what she was doing. So I think that's also a defensive reaction from her to you know, again, separate other eyes, other dash eyes, the innies.
I mean, I definitely think that all that's true. My brain is still going like, I think it's my cult background where I just don't trust it. Like I'm waiting for them to talk about some prophecy or something, because they talk like the way that they talk about this, it's too religious. I do want to talk again about a little bit about the campfire, just because there's several things that just happen in this that I just think are hilarious, like calling somebody Chaos's whore.
Oh yeah,
he is now Chaos's whore. It's just like the way he delivers these lines, man, is just brilliant. But also the marshmallows in the fire, and Dylan like being like, what's that about? He's like, marshmallows are for team players, Dylan. And it just made me think again of like Glengarry Glen Ross, of like, coffee's for closers.
Yeah, with Kier's face burnt into them, so you could look. Lupin, if anything, is very on brand with everything they do.
Okay. So while I was sitting here watching this, not just thinking about like the whole thing about them having sex and stuff. Okay, no, I'm not going to talk about this until later. I really want to talk about it now, but we're not going to. So Irving goes out in the woods and has himself a crazy dream out in the middle of the woods, where I'm assuming he really has it put in his head, solidified in his head about Helly, because the temper of woe is what I'm assuming is what it's supposed to be sitting at her desk.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's what I kind of took from that, and how he woke up and then goes after her in the morning and tries to kill her. That's what they want to say. I don't think he was trying to kill her.
No, he was forcing them to switch. He was forcing the admittal.
Yeah. To expose their ruse, to keep showing Mark and them that this is bullcrap. In a way, like you're trying to kill us. And how he goes out, like to me, is just like, if you're not actually like if you're just kind of disappearing, as he says, we're going to erase you from existence, that you never existed. And just again, the presence of Turturro, of standing there listening, knowing, he got her back. He got rid of her. And in that, we find out about the Glasgow thing, which also, so now they can, we know that they have ways of doing all kinds of stuff. Mark notices that. So that's another thing to pay attention to, is at least for Mark S, both versions of Mark, to pay attention to if they ever need to try to switch on or off again from somewhere else. But then when he says, and I love the payoff for this, what a great setup and payoff at the end of this episode, where he just tells Dylan, hang in there. Just remember, hang in there. And you don't think of anything like that. It's just something people say, like when they're saying goodbye, hang in there, buddy. Right. And then to have it pay off so much. And Irving is our first kind of, I guess, casual. Well, no, the guy who got beamed by Rabimi or whatever her name. Asal is the first casualty
Sure.
of the show. The second casualty of the show is Irving for right now, anyway, or at least Irving B. Any Irving B.
Sure. Well, and Bert, any
out.
Bert,
And any Bert.
Was a quiet one. Well, and I think this was the brilliant setup for this, and the mistake that Lumen makes or that Milchick didn't see is Irving has wanted to die since he came back. He has been ready to go. Losing Bert, this is all fake, like anything else. He's like, just let it end. So now they gave him a reason to stick around, was to expose Helly. So anything that they could put up with him, there is no way that he could lose, which was kind of the great thing. And I love how, he confronts her and she tries to push it out. And he just grabs her like, what are you doing? She's a vegan.
Right.
And they have that great moment. And I love they gave you the little elevator beep when Helly pops back under the water. And Bing. You see that shift and change. The actors are so good to really demonstrate that shift was just perfect. And you're right. It's again, he's like, I'm going to erase you from memory. And he's like, you don't understand. I'm good with this. And I went out showing what's, exposing you. And it was just
because who hasn't been in a position. If you haven't been in this position at your job, because who hasn't been like that 1 foot out the door? I myself have had that moment where I'm like, I was even before I quit a job, I was like, they were like, hey, why don't you go home and take a break for a second and think about this? But it's one of those things where like when you and a job are both basically ready to sever ties with each other, but they can't, and they can't just get rid of you. And they also can't afford to lose you at the same time, but it's like this untenable thing where it's going to explode. And that's kind of like this of like the fuck you, I'm out, the half-baked thing. Fuck you, you're cool, and fuck you, I'm out.
Well, that was the freeing moment in Office Space, if we go all the way back to that. The moment it's like, hey, I don't care.
Yep.
I'm that's good. When you can reach your highest highs and lowest lows.
Yep. So we end episode 4 and we return with episode 5 with the Edmund Fitzgerald. Is that the dentist who whistles about the song of the Edmund Fitzgerald that went down in the Superior Lake Superior way back in the day. I don't know if it's relevant. I think it's just a creepy song for a dentist to whistle.
Yeah.
Or whoever he is, he's a dentist today, whoever he is. They made a point of not showing us his face,
which I like,
which I love. And because, the chat, at least one person in this chat will get this. I couldn't place the voice, and that's, for me, I'm almost the Johnny on the spot with the voices. I know who exactly is saying.
And I have not bothered trying to look in the credits or anything else because, if I can't grab it, then I want to be surprised.
Exactly. So I love that. But if anybody wants to know this Edmund Fitzgerald thing, apparently the ship was taking out like one of those low ships, and the water was like so coming on that by the time they hit a certain wave, it had taken on so much water it just went down with everybody in it.
Yeah.
And that there was a line that the person had said before they died. I looked this up just in case it was gonna be important at some point, but it was something like we're carrying on, we're doing it, we're out here, and we don't, like very of the sea, we're out here being men. I don't know if that's gonna mean anything at all later, but after that moment, go ahead.
I was going to say, there's definitely, I think, a thing is usually when people are whistling a tune at work, it's a happy little tune. but he's whistling a ghostly tune about a mysterious, tragic accident, in storms in the sea. So you're like, that's not the happy tune I would expect people to whistle. So if it's even as simple as that, it's like, yeah, let's give them they're going to be singing, it's like about death and dying.
Okay. So we know that Mark is keeping his sister out of what he's doing. Probably for good reason. I honestly think he needs to tell her. I know that they're doing it for dramatic sake and everything. Because of what's going on with her and her husband, let's just talk about that. This guy is such a sellout. This guy is such a, like, when she says that after reading what he wrote about the ticking clock, that the boss may own the clock, but you get to be happy with the ticking.
Isn't this
And
exactly
it is
the
exactly
opposite?
the opposite of what he says. But he's so willing to go along with it, to sell out his own ideals, and it just, at the end, after Ellie says blah 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 blah, then comes the but. Financially, though, this is good for us, unless you don't like this life that we have. And I still don't like. Is she severed? Is she severed? And I'm joking, because I would have to be severed to be married to that guy.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean,
maybe this version of Devin is married to him, and we'll find her somewhere in Lumen, like having the time of her life. It's like the opposite or something. I don't know, but like,
I love how directly she shuts him down, though. It's kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm not even going to talk about this. Like, okay. And it is the perfect corporate thing. Like, well, you could fight the big monster, but isn't it more responsible of you to take care of your family? Wouldn't that be what a real person does, that earns the money that can take care of their family? That's the easiest suck into selling out right there, because there's a truth to it.
Yeah,
it's a shitty truth, but there is a truth to it.
And him bringing up that this is a Trojan horse, like
Trojan's horse, which you can't even say it right.
He probably is one of those people who says things like that thinks he's saying it the right way.
Yeah.
But that he, hey, this could start a revolution. No, your original book would have started a revolution. It started to start a revolution.
Because they did.
You woke them up. You got them some of the things that they wanted. Now they're sitting there. You don't even realize that, or maybe he does, that he's, just giving up all of his things. Like if anybody were to actually find out that he was doing this would ruin his career.
It's a severed version of his book.
Right? Exactly. But I'm bummed.
Thanks, my one clever line for the night, folks. Okay, I'm out of here.
Oh, you've had a couple. So, Helly, we also, though, she still has a place in all this, as far as, like, she doesn't just get to do whatever she wants. She still has to go to meetings. She doesn't get to just go see her father. She's being made to go back down there with the animals. She's being told by underlings, who I still think Olafur is one of the scariest looking dudes in the entire universe. That voice and everything. If I woke up and he was standing over me, I would probably close my eyes and prepare for a hope for a quick death.
Yeah. And this actor is great, by the way. I saw him recently in The Tourist, which is on Netflix.
Yeah.
But he's popped in. He's very good at creepy.
Oh yeah.
Very good at creepy.
But she doesn't even get to, like, do this. They see it as shame, and she has to face it from them. So she's back down there as the other Helly now. But now, who's Mark? Because is he piggybacking? Because he's not acting like Mark. So on the surface, you just go, well, okay, He's drinking that stuff. He's doing the whole.
At least we now know what that weirdy juice is in the opening credits bit.
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't even want to guess what. Well, I can guess what's in there, but let's not.
Yeah.
There's some things we don't need to discuss.
Alien worms is what's in there.
Yeah. But we don't know, like, if it's making him just piggyback or if it's just giving, like, because he is not Mark.
Well,
S.
he is and he isn't.
But he is.
I mean, I don't think that he's quite doing it. I think because that's what I was wondering all of last episode when I was like, because he starts his first Severance. The next thing we're in Woe's Hollow, and it's like, is this some dream going on? Is this real? You know, for the first chunk of the episode, I was really trying to wondering what the reality was that we were looking at. At this point, and I think what finds really later on is this is Mark completely untrusting. He doesn't know who anybody is. He doesn't trust anybody as who they say that they're supposed to be. And all of his plans, I mean, we'll get to it because it's my scene of the week. That confrontation with him and Helly when he just basically has to throw it out is like, I don't know who you are. How am I supposed to know? They know everything. They're smarter than us. And I think on top of that, we're starting to get the syncing between him and Audi Mark, which is, I think, the cause of the cough and all the other little strange things. But because I would agree, I had no idea what was going on, but I think this is just him kind of in his own Irving mode of like,
and he's got to deal with the fact that she's back. It is her. I slept with her. And I know that I have my Audi's wife here. So he's got all this kind of guilt probably built up as well of like, I hate that cliche. It's the only thing that I don't like so far in this show is the cliched. You didn't know it was me?
Yeah.
It's like everybody that has somebody replace them in a show does that, where it's like, how could you not know? And it's because we don't live in a world where we're all walking around with several versions of us out there potentially.
Right. And when we look back, you're like, oh, there were signals, but we make excuses when people act a little weird or a little different. They're odd. It's just, hey, we were just all out there. Maybe she's having a weird kind of feedback. You know, there's a lot of stuff. But also, again, like I said, Helena is way too sophisticated for Mark. Yeah. He didn't have a fucking chance. But I think that's the other thing, too, is now he's questioning, like, I thought it was love, but then I was manipulated in kind of the same way where Helly's also upset, like, great, I'm a, made person, and then I don't even have my own identity. That bitch up there took that from me as well. And when she finds out that she slept with Mark and not her, that's going to be a fucking scene.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be like, she even took the one thing that I was starting to love.
Which brings me to when they first have their conversation with Milchick at the beginning, and they're all like, blah, 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 like assaulting this guy with questions. And when she finds out that Irving tried to drown her, she was happy. She changed when she realized that somebody stood up for her and did what she said she'd do, which is I'd kill her.
Yeah.
And later, when they say the funeral, there's Helly going, yeah, because that's somebody actually stood up for her and did something heroic. And it was a guy that they don't want to celebrate now. Now, even though they said, we're going to erase you, they immediately go back on that so that they can have a funeral. Like another little topic. I love how like we get these little things in here of these people working. Okay. Milchick, did he have to cut that watermelon himself?
I don't know if that's an O&D thing or if there's the separate cafeteria that we don't know, the melon room.
How fast?
There's a lot of melons and pineapples. Done? There's a fruit section somewhere down here where there's some crazy shit going on.
Right. Yeah, the testing floor is a crazy place, maybe. But they really can pull some stuff together for in the drop. They Lumen is great at throwing
I need
impromptu
a
parties.
bereavement kit.
Yeah.
They have a kit for it.
9 seconds of silence.
I know.
You may now bow your head. And Dylan's eulogy was fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. He's like a stand-up performance up there. He puts the dick in contradiction.
I love it. But
Can
I take a sip of it later because I forgot that he told me that.
Your usual sugar with a little bit of salt.
Yeah.
But that okay, so it's at this point Helly, okay, because Dylan's pissed off. And he tells Helly, hey, did you tell her that Miss Casey is your out? And this is where they have their big kind of moment in the hallway where she's calling him an asshole. I was feeling like, man, what is going on with Mark? But Rena, like you're both right. He's integrating, merging. I think it's going to be like, it's how do I fuse this so that I can have both things happening at the same time and not turn into Petey,
Right.
which.
Well, and even the doc said specifically, I can make Meld a version of you that loves her with a version that he's just like, yes. So it's like, it's not going to be either one of you at the end. It's going to be both, which is going to be a whole weird kind of thing. But no, and I mean, again, this is a great thing because one, Helly is immediately into the plan that they hatched before. Well, let's figure it out. Let's go. We can work together. We can do all these things. She's like, instantly into that team, which I'm sure is making him even more suspicious, like because we had already did that. But I love how that really does establish her character, the character of her character, especially since you said Irving sacrificed for her, so she's ready to go all in for the team. Fuck Lumen, the Severed, we're in this together kind of thing, which I love. But the way they set this up between they had the argument with there, and I loved that 2-shot is where they did it kind of perfectly because he is half in and half out. They have whatever that pillar is in front of him, and she's totally clear. And they get to do that wonderful kind of back where she's just like, not everything is a lie. Some things are real. There is that moment. And again, the difference between Helena and Helly is, and stop being a fucking asshole. And you see when they do that shot again, he's a little bit closer. He stepped a little bit more forward, a little more into Claire, not so much in and out. It's a small little shift.
But stepped in like this?
Hi,
everybody. Sorry.
No. Perfect. But I think that, again, it was just a great visual way, and they've done this a lot. Even when Helly first steps out of the hallway and meets Miss Huang, it's handheld. That's shaky cam. You can see the little bit, and it's showing that again, that animal energy emotion of Helly when she steps in, which I think gives us a great visual of like, oh, that's the difference between the two of them. One was playing coy because she wants to sucker Mark in, and this one's like, attack the world, fuck everyone. They wronged us.
All right. Let's see. Milchick and the paintings and his review. Now, because Milchick is a very, without Patricia Arquette right now, Milchick's who we got. And he's just keeps becoming just such a more and more interesting character. How he goes up to Natalie to ask her opinion about the paintings. And how in his roundabout way, he's like, we both go through the same kind of thing. I can't really say what I'm trying to say, but and her face, again, I don't know if she gave him anything. I feel like her eyes are so watery that you can't quite tell if she's almost breaking but then you remember how many conversations she has where she's not being talked to by the board in all these conversations. So I think a lot of her stuff like just might be so buried. But I love that what happens here with Milchick in this performance review, if you've ever had one by anybody, where they start out with, hey, here's a couple of fucking nothings that you did right. You probably did a ton more right, but they're never going to bring it up. They're going to find a couple of nonsense crap. Oh, you have great attendance and you're not and your drug tests come back great. Hey, and then
You
everything
cleared
else
the bare
is a
minimum.
nitpick, micromanagement bullshit. You put your paper clip backwards. You use too many big words.
No.
And it was in like, because there were several things happening in this scene at different times. Like when he's looking at the paperwork in the dark of what was said about him and the complaints made about him, and he's going over it himself. And he's being told by this guy that your reforms didn't really work and we need you to go back to doing, what you were supposed to do. And then you go to like think about what Miss Huang said about the funeral, how it makes them feel like people.
Yeah, Miss Huang is cold.
And then what Oliver's character says to him about how like what they really are, which is slaves. And he's saying it to somebody that might have a problem with that if he also wasn't a true believer. So we've got another person like Irving that is struggling with what he believes and what he's seeing and what he's living through and what he's being told. And I think Milchick here is a very strong chance of being a dark horse heroic character in this show because of how much he's seeing that because my boss, I'm not going to get too far into this.
Sure.
But, there are times when we're fine, and then there are other times where I know, he'd like to, pop my head off like a dandelion.
Sure.
And so Milchick's no different. He has these run-ins with these people, but I don't think he's evil. I think he's just, again, really, really misguided by a belief system that he thought he wanted all this. Without Harmony Cobell in the way, he got the job, and he's trying to do right by people. He's trying to come up with things that even though, and yes, some of them are like, take people out in the middle of the woods and make them like, but he's still trying to do it in a way that like, I don't know, some sort of humanity for these people.
Yeah, I think he is.
I think he struggles with that. The good person in him is coming up, is letting him do some version of those ideas. And the other version is the one that gets twisted up with the Lumen stuff.
Well, I think they're setting him up really well to be either a great heroic or a great tragic character, depending on where he goes with that. Does he see the light and the inherent conflicts and realizes that there's got to be a better way and ends up being an ally? There's a great heroic turn, but he could equally be one of those that just doubles down on his commitment because that's all that he has left, even if he knows that it's fake. And then he would be a very tragic figure. And I love the fact that they could still take him either way. And once they push him in one direction, they'll immediately yank him and throw him in the other way. They play with that very well with that. So yeah, Milchick is definitely going to be that interesting insight. And yeah, I love that little bit with him and Natalie, just sharing that. Maybe you react the same way that I do. Okay, we've gone too far. All right, we'll go to the view. And yes, Rita, you're quite right. Miss Huang made the complaints. She wants his job. She is a terror of an 8-year-old.
It's kind of like Andor, the Andor stuff of like behind the scenes Imperial backstabbing and shit. Just
Well, and
done
that's
with
it. There's always the backstabbing the minute in any of these positions, which again, it's just there's the strata, there's the belief system, but everybody's in for it for their own advantage.
Yeah.
Which is again the difference between the them up there and our group of innies. But yes, this is where we get that hint of Cold Harbor being so important, one of the greatest things in the history of humanity. And even they refine it is when Milchick confronts Mark in the elevator. Is like it's like, should we get back to work? Putting the little numbers together in a basket, refining. Yes,
The bullshit Gazette.
I know, that was so awesome. That was a beautiful turnaround. But I'm just, I mean, again, I don't know what it is that they are doing, and is this a greatest thing for a corporation that's dealing with controlled slaves? Is this some breakthrough in Severance that will allow them to control everybody? Is that type of thing, something with the whole robot bit that we were referring to earlier? I mean, for a moment I was like, okay, they're going to go full sci-fi, and Lumen are aliens, and this is
Right.
their way of taking over the world for whatever kind of thing. I mean, you could go that way. That feels like almost like kind of almost too much. I love the depth and horror of humanity can do by itself without having need outside of interjection. But I do love, again, that confluence of religion and corporatization and belief and sci-fi that we have going here. I don't know, and I'm wondering if maybe it's not that Mark Scout had a particular ability that pulled Lumen to bring him in, or if just once you're severed, everybody has their own particular gifts, and he just happens to be able to refine whatever this program plan is. So his ability has made him important, not some sort of intrinsic sense of self. The only thing that conflicts with that is, but he didn't come in until Miss Casey died, and Miss Casey ain't dead. So he had to have been kind of suckered in.
Yeah. It feels like at this point that they caused the accident.
Yeah.
Or they covered it. I don't know. But like in some form, that's probably what happened. And that they didn't kill her, which I guess is good. But like, what's the end game there? Is she just a doll? Like this dentist might be a doll, but which is interesting because Dyken Lockman was on that show Dollhouse.
Oh, okay. Well,
where she played a doll.
Another
empty vessel.
Just kind of work.
Okay, so we got like two things, I think.
Yeah.
One is the melon head reveal. I love that they somebody just ate his whole ear, just ripped that off, but just without even because a lot of things they want to make sure you see it, know what they're talking about, but they didn't even put the poster fully in frame. They let us. He just he looks. They show the thing. He says goodbye. He turns. He starts to get up, and we see the poster just kind of off to the side. He sees the poster again. The way they shoot this show is so brilliant, and they don't even say anything. You just see it, and it's like, oh, hang in there. If you watched last week, you'll know what that means. And then he finds the map, and it's the detailed map, and it's just like, yes, this is how you do reveals.
No, that was perfect. And again, it's the classic hang in there picture that you think with the cat. But you're right, you don't see the thing. And when I was looking, I'm like, is that just an office guy hanging off of a rope? Because I think that might be what it is. But again, we didn't see the whole poster. We just catch like the bottom part of the side thing and all that. So yeah, I'm curious. I may go through and see if one of the other angle shots, we get more of a shot of it. But
well, the thumbnail that I put out is it's Dylan holding the two things. Hang in there.
I didn't get a chance to see the
O&D
new
made
thumbnail.
that shit, and it's him holding the thing together for the finale. There's
just that brilliance in there that's just too perfect.
Like,
too
even
perfect.
just talking about it, we find out new things. Like, it's just to talk about. So that's fantastic. I wanted to just justify it because I like the thumbnail was hard to do. I was like, well, I'm talking about 2 episodes. Wait a minute. A lot of it's about Irving. So let's just keep that motif. The last thing that we have, because I just want to end on Totoro and then we'll do our scene of the week or whatever.
Yeah.
Is his Audi going to the phone booth again, phone booths, having a mysterious phone call with somebody, and then sees he's being followed, says that they must have been onto him. And he goes to confront the guy who we know who it is. It's Christopher frickin' Walken again. I love it. I love there's a show with Christopher Walken. And we get to find out what happened that night. And it is exactly what we thought, pretty much. He's with a man who's married, but we didn't know he was fired. And that he was fired for a romantic entanglement with another employee. So he was forced out just like he is. And now, why don't you come over for some ham dinner? We'll talk through it.
I can't wait. I know.
I have this thing about people that come over to my house. Call it a quirk.
Well, next thing I know, there's this guy. He's pounding on my door. He's shouting my name.
Yes.
You
So
like ham?
now, for everybody that's shipping our little perpetuity wing Burton Irving guys, we have renewed faith.
Except
they're putting
this is going to be a throuple. It's a throuple. We're already getting this set up.
Care. If it goes that way, it goes that way. I don't care.
Like,
I just
red wine, expensive.
Yeah, expensive. Like, I love it. It's gonna be great. I want to see this dinner. He doesn't sound like honestly, to me, maybe he doesn't sound like he's happily married. And as much as I don't usually ship characters on anything, it just feels wrong. These two characters have to find each other almost as much as Mark and Miss Casey. Everybody needs to find each other in this. It's a great show, and
Look,
that's what happens there at the end of this.
This is the real secret, and I'm going to dispose it right now. Obviously, this show is going to be is very pro threesome. We're going to have Irving, Burton, Fields in one, and then we're going to have Mark, Gemma, and Helly on the other one. So you get your different combinations. I also think at this stage, I'm going to throw this out right now. Helly's goal is going to switch places with Helena. She wants to trap Helena into the innie's life and have her have the outside life. I think that's going to be her ultimate revenge, is to put Helena just in the basement.
Yeah.
And she's free. And that might be a fucking thing of beauty, as an end result, is having Innie take over Lumen.
Yeah. And I don't think it's really that important in the end for Mark and Helliar to be romantically entangled for the whole thing. I think it's just it's dramatic flair. They always have two characters kiss or whatever. And I think that would be really great is just, again, to have these two characters have mutual affection and respect for each other to get what they want done. Realizing, we had our time, we had all this, and now we have all this new information. And in order to free everybody, we're going to do these kind of things.
Yeah.
And
we have a love, but it's a bigger love.
Yeah.
Than just that. It's that love of humanity, that support, that kind of thing. Because, that would be like freaking super powerful. You get Helly switching positions with Helena and then Mark reintegrating. And then finding Gemma. This is the ending that I'm hoping for, which means going to ruin it. He'll do something to make me think more. Oh, well.
So before we end, we're going to do our favorite moment. Now, it's a little bit weird because we have 2 episodes we're talking about. I mean, to
Do we
me,
get one per episode?
we can do one per episode. I mean, for me, it's real easy. I mean, Irving's end at the end was my scene.
Mine too.
It's too good. It was either that or when he's talking to her in the tent before, like, and he's just looking at her, and that look of like just his acting alone and her acting in that scene was just fantastic. Or just 2 people like, I know, you know, and the Stonewall, like, just fantastic. But yeah, that's the same for you.
Oh yeah, for the first episode, yeah, no. The confrontation, to me, the last one between Irving and Helly was just too perfect.
Episode 5 is a little more difficult to pin down, I think. But if I had to pick, I have to pick. If I had to pick, that's what the whole thing's for.
And you do,
You pick your favorite scene. Favorite moment, and I still think it's because I put it in the thumbnail. It's that reveal of the map, only because I love that they didn't have to use dialogue. They used something that was said in a previous episode that might not mean anything unless that character in that moment sees everything right, and just the way they framed it and shot it. To me, that was my favorite moment of episode 5, just because I love those. It's almost Bert and Irving at the end, but I just love the unspokenness of Dylan and Irving's relationship, where he's still talking to him, you know. And by doing what he does and finding this, he's not there, but they're still working for each other. There's still a chance to find Irving, to bring Irving back. And these are the steps to get there. And finding that hallway is like the next step for Dylan anyway.
Well, especially, and we didn't touch on it, so I'll just hit it real now. The tension between Milchek and Dylan. When Dylan's like, I don't really give a fuck. You just better tell me this. And he's like, easy, words have consequences. I'd hate for you to lose the privileges that you have. And that shuts him up. But Mark also notices.
Yes.
Which is great. So this is perfect. He's still kind of at that, I don't care. You know, I'm almost willing to sacrifice that for my buddy, which is really.
Yeah, it's all going to come out. Everybody's secrets are going to come out. And that's just shows. That's just what happens. Yeah. And everybody will give him crap for half a second, and then, you know.
And then they'll understand, and they'll move on.
Yeah.
No,
how
for
regular
me,
people do things.
Yeah. For me, it's as we already mentioned it. It's the twofer between Mark and Helly in the hallway.
Okay.
Where he kind of reveals exactly what's going on. I don't trust anyone. They know everything. They're too big. What am I supposed to do? And again, that shot where he's literally half in and half out on that shot, and they give that just a little shift, just to give that visual, is that he is coming at it. It is that little bit of trust. He is seeing what the difference between Helena and Helly are, and what he can do. And, you know, obviously we're going to have more of that conflict going on with Mark, but when they can match the visuals storytelling with the dialogue and the acting, those are just one of those moments. And I think very much like the scene you talked about with Dylan, where all those come together, and it's just like, this syncs perfect. This tells a story without you really having to know much of anything else.
Yeah. And even the end of this episode where he sees her, where he's there, but he's just seeing his memories of the place and visualizing things, and hears Miss Casey's voice and is able to put her in there in a moment, and seeing her that she is alive. Man, and not knowing if next week will be starting close to that moment, and not caring, because I know that whatever they're going to show me is important, and we'll get to whatever else is going on. That's when you're doing storytelling this well, I will let you get away with so much. And like I said, the cliche of the "you didn't know it was me" thing and all that stuff. Look, you're almost always, even the best freaking shows have stuff like that in them. And when they rise above all of that, it to be this good, it just, again, another fantastic week of 2 weeks for us of episodes to talk about. We've got like 4 more at least.
We're only halfway through the season.
If I don't know for sure how many episodes, if they're doing 9 again.
I'm assuming 9 because they did 9 last season, but I know honestly I haven't double checked what the episode count was for this, so we'll find out, I guess.
Hey, if there's 10, 11, it just means we get to talk about it longer.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm fine with that.
Spoil
me, please.
So that brings us to a close on this. We did it. We talked about 2 episodes in 1 hour and 10.
Nicely done. Thanks everyone in the chat too. Rena, you were awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, Rena, keeping the chat lively, giving us more stuff to think about and talk about. So what's going on else here is, well, it's basically this right now. We're working on this show, and I don't really have much time for much else currently. I'll still be doing my game streams and stuff like that. It says 10 for season 2. So we are at the halfway point, but we still got 5. Hell yeah. 5 more weeks. But here on the channel, we're just playing God of War Ragnarok right now, and making the Severance videos. If for some reason I have the free time and my voice is good, I'll probably be working on some more comic stuff in the next couple of days. But there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that are making things a little bit advantageous. This is why we had to do it like this week. Hopefully this is a one-off and we don't have to keep switching things around or doing 2 videos at the same time. But that's just kind of where we're at right now. I want to thank everybody that is watching these and enjoying these. Again, we're talking about work here, and the things that are going on in our world. This show, I know that the phrase of "it's more relevant than ever," it's almost always true, but like it really is relevant. And I hope that whatever we're saying here helps, give you guys a little relatability into the workplace and the cult side of things and everything else. So, do you have anything else?
Well, I will actually, for those of you that have caught my reviews with Mark and Alyssa over on Enchantment of Eternity, as Mark's counting down his top 25 Star Trek episodes of all time, we're going to hit number 2 this Monday. So Enchantment of Eternity, 6 p.m. Pacific. You can count our number 2 or Mark's number 2 favorite Star Trek episode of all time. It's going to be a fun one. You guys should enjoy it. So if you got a chance, go ahead and check that out. You can see it live, or of course always in the archives. As for me, I am slowly ramping up the return of D's reviews. Born again, folks. With this awesome guy and me are going to be talking about the new Daredevil series. There'll be some more things going up. I'm definitely going to be covering Andor as well. So a little bit more action will suddenly popping up over on D's Reviews. So jump over there, hit the subscribe and the notify button, and you won't miss any of those notifications. And I always try to throw little notices when I'm on other channels as well. So catch that there or over on socials. That's at Darren Jakes on your Blue Sky, on your Instagram. Fuck Twitter.
And I don't know. I might be going to see Captain America.
I'm gonna try and catch it this week. I'm
thinking about seeing Captain America like Tuesday on my day off, and maybe I'll talk about it. Maybe we'll talk about it. It won't have to be anything big, I don't think. No pun intended, but
yeah, we'll see. Could be a surprise review.
Yeah, maybe we'll just cover it. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about Captain America on the next Severance, like up at the top of the next Severance video. We'll just go blah 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 blah. Moving on to something that we know is good. We don't know if Captain America is good or not. We know this is. So, with that being said, thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you on the next video where we'll be severed together. See ya.
Take it easy, y'all.
Bye.
Fuck you, Mr. Milchick!
Ba 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 bum. Ba bum 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 bum.